Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them and I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. I would like to welcome you to my high school era Uncanny X-Men. So, everything prior to this issue was in, middle school, elementary school. This issue came out in the summer that I was heading to my freshman year in high school. These are the X-Men that I have I should say not the most that I remember the most because I was much older. And most of the stuff that we've covered so far, for example, the Mutant Massacre, I was in middle school. I remember that pretty well, but not as well as when then as an adult that of course I started rereading them and all that kind of stuff. But I really remember this era here because the remaining X-Men from here on out, I'm in high school and I am just digging this stuff all over. So, before I continue, I do have a playlist. I have an X-Men playlist where I have covered everything from classic X-Men #1 all the way to current with the Chris Claremont era. I have an X Factor playlist. I have a Wolverine playlist and a New Mutants playlist. The New Mutants playlist, I stopped at issue 54, which was Claremont's last issue. The Louis Simonson issues did not interest me. I cover everything in reading order, so I will jump again when we get to the Rob Liefeld stuff. But I also have an X Universe playlist where I put everything together. Everything is done in reading order. Feel free to check that out, whichever one you want. I always tell people go to the X Universe one because that's everything. That's Uncanny X-Men. That is New Mutants. That is oh my goodness, Marvel. The Marvel Fanfare 4 issues are in there. Wolverine's in there, New Mutants is in there, X Factor is in there, Excalibur will be in there, just not yet. Excalibur, I have covered one, the Excalibur special, which had come out during this time, but Excalibur #1 has not come through. Excalibur #1 will come through after Uncanny 236, I believe. And so that's kind of where we're heading. So I figured I would get all that stuff out of the way. So we are going to look today at the Uncanny X-Men 229 from 1988. Storm has regained her powers. We have here Colossus. Oh, and by the way, when I was telling you, I was in summer. So 228, I was actually the first issue that came out during the summer, and then this one. So the next month after this, I go to high school, which was pretty scary. So, all right, we've got Colossus, Storm, and Wolverine against the Reavers. Dan Green, Silvestri has changed his signature. We're going to see a lot of this signature for a while before he changes it again. I love the dry brush being employed here. As I mentioned before, Storm gained her powers during the fall of the mutants, and Colossus just looks huge. So this begins the Outback era, which goes, I think, till 248, 249. So Singapore. Now, I am not going to read everything here because Chris Claremont likes to put in a lot of words. So Hoan International Bank, and we are going to have a bank robbery. So this is Mrs. Or Miss Hoan here, and she will be important to this issue and other issues, particularly with Wolverine here. So suddenly there's this big flash, and here come the Reavers. Now, one of the things you will notice is Marc Silvestri has done a lot of these double page spreads where instead of having just one gigantic splash page, he will do a half page with the spread and then continue here. He has been doing this since the fall of the mutants. May have done it a little bit before, but it's something that he seems to be continuing. We have our credits here. Chris Claremont writes, Marc Silvestri pencils, Dan Green inks, Glennis Oliver continues to color, Tom Razakowski. If you saw already, the amount of letters that this dude has put in is one of the goats. There are 3 colorists that I love: Tom Razakowski, Kevin Kline, and oh my goodness, John Workman Jr. Those are the top 3, the goats. Who's better? I don't know. Depends on your style, but all 3 have a beautiful, unique letters that you really recognize here. So we have the Reavers coming through. You see they shoot this guy here, kill the guard here, and kill one of the kids here. And so this Reaver says, "Figure we got their attention, pretty boy." And pretty boy says, "Those still breathing, fearless leader, indubitably. Lordy, I do love it when my plan comes together. You all know your jobs, Reavers. Let's loot the joint." So the Reavers are obviously cyborgs, so they have metallic or robotic parts to their living tissue here. Look at this guy with the football helmet. So all right, they grab this guy, and he's the president of the bank, and they're like, "Open the vault or I'm gonna break your neck." And he's like, "Gak, gak, gak." He's like, "Say it louder." He can't understand. And so eventually Miss Hoan says, "Stop it. My uncle can't answer you. Can't you see you're choking him?" And they're like, this guy's like, "Whoa, check this out." And the guy in the football helmet says, "Hey, Skullbuster, better watch your step, bro. This Chica's tough." And he looks out. He says, "I'm a reasonable man. You want to save the old coot sweets? You provide the combination." And she says, "There is none. When you attack the security computers, automatically seal the vault. The time lock can't be open for 24 hours. And he's like, "We can't wait." And she says, "Then it appears you butchers have made all this effort, caused all this carnage for nothing." And he goes, "No fooling, huh?" You can see he snaps the dude's neck. "Golly gee, I guess we don't need the old geezer anymore." And she, of course, screams for her uncle, who just got killed. And so he tosses it out the side, and he says, "We're going to have to do it the hard way." So that he grabs this blaster here, and they open the stuff, and they go in to rob the bank. And so pretty boy grabs Jessica Hoan, and they're gonna take her prisoner real quick here. The first name of Tiger. That's gonna be important. Because, as I mentioned, she is going to be very, very important in Chris Claremont's Wolverine run. And then afterwards here, Tiger is, I think, going to be her code name. So, all right. So they're going to leave, and they continue shooting. Like, why are they shooting back? There's nobody shooting at them. So, all right. And so, now we go to Australia, which is where the X-Men are. Oh, nope. They're not in Australia yet. So sorry. They will be there after this. So in Australia is where the Reavers are, and Gateway works for them. He teleports them away, opens that portal, and they go through. He's right now doesn't talk. And this guy goes, man, I'll never get used to how dark it gets out here. And he goes, no big deal, Skull. I can light things up bright as day whenever I please. And some guy here says, the old coot looks angry, boss. And he's like, don't mind. He can look any which way he pleases, as long as he does what we're told. But mark me, Gateway, any funny stuff, and the Reavers will trash your holy place beyond all hope of reconsecration. And then your people will never know peace. They'll wander the dreamland, slaves to outside spirits, to the end of time and beyond. So that's, of course, what they believe. And so since he believes it, it is what it is. So you can see how angry he is. Now, real quick, look at the scribbles for the hair. I actually like this. This is the most likely it looks like a brush. So Dan Green must work with the brush instead of using a quill or anything like that. So and so the Reavers are going into this bar. I don't know why, because if they're here with the entire town, or if they're there, why does they have to go to the bar? Why can't they just go somewhere else? But it looks like the bartender is a robot, and I don't know, just weird. But all right, so Hoan wakes up and she's like, "Where am I? What is this place?" And Pretty Boy says, "Our hideout, of course. And since we looted your treasure vault, little tiger, it seems only polite to show you ours." And so this is all the stuff. That's a lot of money, and I understand that, but why are they still robbing the places? But I get it. We gotta have super villain stories, but with comic books, you sometimes just have to suspend disbelief a little bit. And she goes, "What? But why bring me here? What do you want with me?" And he says, "Why, to make you one of us." And she screams, "No!" And so he grabs her, and he's like, "What we require is a financial wizard. It's you to put it to good and profitable use. However, while banking skills are an asset, other aspects of your character are distinct liabilities." And he is sending stuff right out of his eyes, kind of like doing stuff there. And he says, "Inconvenient elements such as a sense of morality, scruples, decency, so I'm going to erase them. Replace them with an attitude more in keeping with your new life as a Reaver. Instant psychic reprogramming, like being reformed. No muss, no fuss, presto, change. A whole new you. Isn't that nice?" And you can see here, as we close up to her mouth, she is smiling now. Oopsie. And so drunken here, they're all kind of down, and one of them is looking at something and says, "Impossible." And this guy says, "That's what I thought. That's why I called. The weather scan forecast a quiet, clear night. Didn't say nothing about no sandstorm." And so he says, "It's a big one coming our way." And so he tells everybody, "Get up. We gotta get out of here. We can't have the sand going into their parts." He says, "If you don't move, your guys are gonna die here." And so you can see the sand here is affecting them here, and it turns out it is Storm doing. Now Storm is still wearing her old uniform, or her old the leather, but she is going to be going into the white costume. So that would be her next thing. So she, of course, had the original, then this, so she's going to go to her second costume. Also, Betsy is also going to have a different costume coming soon. So these two are, so Chris Claremont is changing Storm and Psylocke. Rogue seems to have a new costume all the time, and Wolverine will stay the same until he actually gets his series. And I'm just surprised because he has his costume when he's not with the X-Men, and then one when he's with the X-Men. So, all right. So she is Psylocke is, so Storm's creating the wind for the sandstorm, and Psylocke is using her psychic powers to get where everybody is. And so Um, Storm says the Reavers have a prisoner. Psylocke is transmitting her psychic fix on the woman's location. Use your plasma means to blast a pathway to help her. And so he does as he is told, and he uses his mutant powers, which Chris Claremont lets us know. And so he goes through, and Longshot and Dazzler show up here. And Dazzler throws his knife. His powers is luck, so everything he does is lucky or just in time. And so he throws his knife and gets that in there. And let's see, Dazzler lands in a bunch of money here. And Longshot grabs Hoan and kicks this guy in the face, and meanwhile she's just stuck in all these coins and feels embarrassed that she's been no good. Here comes Pretty Boy, grabs him here. He grabs her, brings him up, and so he is going to try to do what he did to her, but she uses her power to rip out the arms. Remember that they are robotic, and she's crushing her throat, and she's like gotta use like a photon blast, and so he's gonna try to do what he did to her here, and so she of course can't have her do that, so she is going to get even brighter here. So love this part. Rogue and Colossus walk in, and Rogue is like, think those toads will give up without a fight, Colossus? And he goes, considering their crimes of characters, Rogue, I hope not. And so they're walking through. Suddenly we got like the 60s Batman, wham, bam, slam, thump, hit, bash, slap, kadow. That's awesome here as the Reavers go out. And of course, Rogue is like, had enough. And the Reavers are like, nope, let's go. And so a good old fashioned fight. And so here we go. And this guy ends up touching her, which of course her power is once you make physical contact with Rogue, flesh to flesh, she absorbs your thoughts and powers, and it knocks him out, but it also kind of knocks Rogue out. And so Skullface is moving in toward Rogue, and oh my god, Havoc is going to save her. Havoc, by the way, is Alex Summers, Chris Claremont had already said, and he is Cyclops' older brother. Baby brother. All right, so he helps Rogue out, and of course, because she absorbs their memories, is like, oh my god, these people are just terrible. And so you can see Skullface is grabbing who he can, and Colossus just kaboom with the other two. And of course, we can't forget about Wolverine, who's got the coolest costume. They need to go back to this one, not a variation of this costume. I mean, going back to this costume. John Byrne designed it, and it is why undo what John Byrne did? So if it's good enough for John Byrne, it's good enough. So I love these panels here of Wolverine just going crazy. Absolutely awesome. Love the chunks of stuff, and then him walking away, leaving a pile there. So, all right. And so this guy's like, get a portal open. He's like, if you do that, we're good. And so meanwhile, Pretty Boy's trying to get away here. So he opens the gateway, and the Reavers get away here. And so they get away, and Wolverine's like, well, I'm going to make sure that they can't, the gate doesn't open again. And Storm stops him and says, she's your claws. For all his actions, I sense this man is no more a villain or Reaver than we. And so we end with a lot of words. So I'll just basically kind of guide you here because this is a lot. So they're consoling her. Longshot is like, I can't believe you people would do this to your bodies. Wolverine says, there's nothing we can do. We're supposed to be dead. We can't even, take them to court. And who's gonna convict them? And if we let them go, they're gonna be blabbing. 3 of them got away, and of course, Roma comes in, and I think this is the last time she comes in. Otherwise, this would be happening at the end of every issue. But I think Claremont can get away with it one last final time. And maybe she does appear again, but that will be like once more, and not for a while. So Havoc says, "Oh, we should kill him," and Wolverine says, "I got no problem with that." And he's like, "I was being sarcastic," and Wolverine's like, "I am not." And of course, Rose is like, "Hey, these guys deserve it." And of course, Colossus says, "This isn't what we fought and sacrificed for. We're not executioners." And so Roma offers them a choice. They can either die or go through the siege Perilous, where their spirits will be separated, whatever, or some kind of thing, but they'll get a second chance to redeem themselves. And so she says, they go here. Well, real quick, this is what I meant for a lot of words here. Justice or vengeance, and Wolverine's like, sometimes, boy, vengeance is justice. And so Psylocke is like, the Reavers don't deserve mercy, and Storm is like, we're not them, so we don't do stuff like the Reavers are. And it's very important because the X-Men are heroes, and I love that part of that era of X-Men. And so they basically, Storm says, you people have a choice, the Siege Perilous or Wolverine. And this guy's like, what? That's not a choice. And they're like, Bonebreaker abandoned us. We're like, we'll take the Siege. So they all do. And so a lot of talkie. But Jessen says, I don't want to go. I didn't do anything. And so they're like, that's right. She really didn't. And so what do we do with her? I thought Psylocke would just erase her mind, but she doesn't. She will just, Roma will send her back to where she was after she was abducted, and nobody even bats an eyes. And then we got words. A lot of words, but basically, you X-Men are heroes. You save the world. The future's in your hands, and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of words. Twas the night is for the next issue. So Uncanny X-Men 229. Chris Claremont, Marc Silvestri with Dan Green. Like and subscribe, and I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.